All right, folks, we're back. We're going to start this show over again. We're not going to go into the theme, so I'm not even going to worry about that. All right, for those of you who are just catching on right now, here's the thing. ISIS is a terrorist group out of the Syria-Iraq region. They are really, really, really dangerous people. How dangerous? Well, let's just say that they love to terrorize you by, crucifixion is their thing, it seems like. Now you're going, oh my God, John, they can't do that. Yeah, they're doing it. And there is talk in the conservative media of going back to Iraq. This is a very bad idea. First of all, there's nothing to be gained. All right? Why go to Iraq when we've already been there? Yes, we deposed Saddam Hussein, but we never found the weapons of mass destruction. So anybody that says, "Oh my God, we've got to, we gotta change things. We got to," blah, blah. It's stupid. Okay, it is absolutely stupid to go back to Iraq because there is nothing to be gained by the vast majority of American people. Now, there are certain people who own stock in companies like Halliburton and others who feel like, hey, we should go back. We're trying to help freedom-loving people. Except they just want stability. They just want to know that they can walk to their local store or take their kids to school or go to their job and not get killed. Okay? That's the most important thing right now for them. Because right now, ISIS is a terrorist group that is potentially going to kill a lot of people to get control of Iraq. And that's what they want. They excuse me. They want to control. Not again. Damn. The hell's going on? Oh, we're still on the air. 'Cause I keep getting this signal that we're all right. We're still on the air. We had to abort the past broadcast because of I'm not sure why. We had disconnected from the server about 2 or 3 times, so we apologies for that. I'm not sure what happened. But here's the thing. What is to be gained by going back? Tell me, what would the objective be? To defeat ISIS? You might do that. We leave again. And another group comes along. And there are people in this country who believe we should have went to Syria and get pretty much bogged down in that country. Look, we've lost 5,000 plus troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. That doesn't even count the wounded. That doesn't even count the ones that may not have gotten physically wounded, but have been mentally wounded. How many of our soldiers came home with PTSD and other mental conditions from being in combat? And they didn't have to be. But where are the Democrats who are saying, hey, we're not going in there because the last time we went in there, the Republicans were in charge, they screwed it up. They went in there with no end game, how to get us out again. They just wanted to stay there. Obama got us out. from a war that cost us several $1 trillion. Okay? Several $1 trillion. And we didn't pay for that war with increased taxes. In fact, we cut taxes. The first time in this nation's history, we went to war. Not a declared war, but a war nonetheless. And we didn't raise taxes to pay for it. So now the bills are due. How much money have we wasted on Iraq and Afghanistan? How much of our debt has been wasted on Iraq and Afghanistan? And a lot of these people want to blame Obama for it. Well, guess what? Who put us there to begin with? We were totally within our right to go into Afghanistan and go after the Taliban and go after Osama bin Laden when we went to Afghanistan. And we had chances to get Osama bin Laden. We didn't pull the trigger. Now, it could be said that Clinton had that chance to do it, but he didn't do it. And I agree. Clinton should have done it. But Clinton had legal advice that it may not be the wisest thing. It was a tactical mistake. Should we crucify Bill Clinton? Tie him up to a stake and burn him there for this? Of course not. Every president makes mistakes. But for some reason, if Obama makes a mistake, we have to crucify him. We have to rake him over the coals. We have to consider him to be the Antichrist because 4 people died in Benghazi. 4 of our embassy personnel died in Benghazi. Why? Because they had the audacity to actually pay attention to what international obligations are. The Libyan government did not want our Marines have loaded weapons guarding the embassy. Okay? That is standard procedure for a lot of embassies around the world. In fact, it probably was standard procedure in the 8 attacks on our embassies under the Bush administration, I should say W's administration, from 2001 to 2009 that resulted in the loss of lives. 8. Okay? 8 of them. We're not crucifying W for it. Why aren't we dragging him up to Capitol Hill and say what the hell went wrong? No, because it's Obama, we have to talk about impeachment. What, if Obama puts ketchup on his hot dog, do we impeach him then? Because he's from Chicago, and putting ketchup on your hot dog misdemeanors. All right. High crimes and misdemeanors are, and let's be perfectly blunt, crimes that are so, Richard Nixon committed crimes that deserved impeachment and conviction. Bill Clinton didn't really deserve impeachment. Did he lie under oath? Yes, but it was in a court case that was politically motivated that he really shouldn't have lied to, okay? And the problem was they knew, the GOP knew, that there were not enough votes to convict him of impeachment and get him out of office. They knew that wasn't going to happen. It was all politically motivated. And since they won that battle, And since Obama's been in office, it seems like we are always hearing about, well, he's got to be impeached for this. He's got to be. Let me put it to you this way. If Fast and Furious had happened under any other president, would they have been impeached? If it happened under Reagan, would it have been impeached? No. If it happened under Bush the first, no. Clinton, probably not. No. But for some reason, you got people who say that this policy, which I'll admit, was misguided, but did it harm our national security to the point where it compromised it? No. Okay? This was a plan that backfired. It did not work. Okay? Plans by presidents sometimes don't work. Okay? Reagan screwed up a few times. Iran-Contra comes to mind, and he's damn lucky he didn't get impeached then, but the fact was the Democrats didn't pull that trigger. And if you do your research and read about Iran-Contra, Reagan could very well have been impeached. I'm not saying he should have, because that would have set a very bad precedent. And I think at the time, and I think the reason is that, and if you've read the history of that time, there was a lot of cooperation going on between the Reagan administration and the Congress. If congressional Democrats had pushed for impeachment, they could have blown that up. I think in a lot of ways, the Republicans knew that if they pushed the Democrats if they didn't compromise with the Democrats, Reagan could have been impeached. And Oliver North is criticizing Obama about this. Mr. North, I'm not going to give you the dignity of being called a lieutenant colonel or whatever. You don't have the right to do it. You are damn lucky you're still breathing, because you broke the law and you came close to committing treason against this country in the whole Iran-Contra affair. And I wish I had the copy of the article I wrote for the Isothermal Patriot newspaper back when I was in college that grilled you big time. In fact, I think I'm off next Tuesday, or was it Wednesday? I don't know. I'm off one day next week. You know, we want to know something? I think I'm going to go to Isothermal, and I'm going to get that, and I'm going to make a copy of it, and I'm going to post it. We can complain all we want to about the fact that Obama may not be doing as much as he can on the foreign policy, but in the reality, we cannot dominate a world that doesn't want to be dominated anymore. You've got Russia wanting to get back to being a superpower. China, for all intents and purposes, is a superpower now. And they want to flex it. You can already start seeing that. And there are other nations, India, potentially Brazil if they get their act together, and perhaps even Argentina if they were to get oil revenue from the South Atlantic. There's a reason why you've been hearing about the Falklands the last 2 or 3 years. There's oil down there, okay? And there are people who are going, we really want the Falklands. Now, this is the thing. And a lot of people say, well, what about the Middle East? Are they going to... Look, the Middle East is so screwed up. It's not just religion there. It's politics. It's tribal stuff. They couldn't get their act together. I mean, Saudi Arabia is so corrupt, it's not even funny. They like to say, well, we are so religiously pious that we'll behead homosexuals and atheists and all this when in fact, there's plenty of tales about Saudi princes and whatnot coming to the West and, acting like complete asses, but... And, of course, there's the Sultan of Brunei who's put Sharia law in his nation when, in fact, if he were to actually be held to that same standard, off would go his head. Oh, man. But here's the thing. We are trying to get it. We got involved back in 91 when Saddam attacked Kuwait. And did we have the right to go in and try and free Kuwait? Yeah. The Saudis invited us in because they were afraid that if we didn't go, Saddam would go after Saudi Arabia. Now, as a consequence to that, we pissed off Al-Qaeda, or Osama bin Laden, and a bunch of fundamentalists who didn't like us but were not really bothered by us until we went to Saudi Arabia, which they considered to be Holy Land. In fact, we worked with Osama bin Laden and a lot of these same people that helped to attack us in 2001 back in the 80s against the Soviets in Afghanistan. The circle does come around, does it not? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. We had good intentions in Afghanistan back in the 80s. But what we did was we trained Al-Qaeda, essentially, to one day fight us. Which is what happened because we didn't realize that at the time. We thought we were training them to fight the Soviets, which they did, and eventually they ran them out of there. A few years later, because we went to Saudi Arabia to protect the Saudi sheikhs and whatnot, and to free Kuwait from the oppression of Saddam Hussein, and protect our oil interest, we pissed off a bunch of fundamentalists that decided to attack us and continue to attack us until they brought down two of the biggest symbols of American enterprise, the World Trade Center towers. They attacked the Pentagon, and that plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was either headed for the White House or Congress. Now, that doesn't excuse what they did, obviously, but it gives you a reason why they did it. And the fact is